Cameroon's Minister of Territorial Administration Atanga warns traditional rulers in the west region of the Republic of Cameroon to stay away from manipulation by some politicians, notably those of the opposition. He condemned the criticisms highlighted by some traditional rulers of the west region against the government in a statement which they recently published on social media. He was speaking in Bafoussam in the west region of the country, and those of the Fako division, traditional rulers in the Fako division, are crying out about their security. They are saying that they are continuously being targeted as the conflict in the northwest and southwest regions of the country persist. Controversial travel restrictions imposed on Nigeria, 3 other African countries, and other countries by former President of the United States Donald Trump have simply been reversed by the new president who took over office yesterday. Joe Biden said the policy of Trump was simply wrong. Thank you for joining us on this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinoxe Television, broadcasting from Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. My name is Babla Jonathan. We begin this newscast in the west region of the country, where some traditional rulers are now at daggers drawn with the administration over criticisms against the Yaoundé government, or better still, the government of President Paul Biya. Some of the traditional rulers have been threatened by some administrative authorities. The traditional ruler, paramount ruler of the Bamenju people in the west region of the country, is Royal Majesty Jean Ramos Sokoju. The second is being threatened by the senior divisional officer of the Upper Plateau or the Upper Cam division, who is asking him to stop speaking and criticizing the government, according to him, inciting violence. And during a recent visit of the Minister of Territorial Administration in the West Regional Chieftown Bafoussam, he called on the traditional rulers to refrain from manipulation by some political leaders. He condemned the criticisms highlighted by some of the traditional rulers against the government in a statement which they recently published on social media. Inosinazi has the details.
Minister Paul Atanga was speaking in Bafoussam at the start of a security evaluation meeting extended to some custodians of the tradition in the West region.
La chefferie traditionnelle dans la région de l'Ouest a connu certains problèmes et a affiché certaines attitudes qui méritent d'être recadrées.
To the minister, this comes at a time when the traditional rulers, who ought to accompany the government in its development agenda, rather brandish a condemnable attitude at the detriment of the state.
Je suis venu vous dire sincèrement, en tant que votre tutelle, que je ne suis pas du tout d'accord avec cette démarche, qui, à mon avis, est une démarche anti-républicaine.
Minister Paul Atanga moved with his yellow cards to rebuke the writing of memoranda by traditional rulers non-stop, attacking and criticizing the government.
La promesse que le carton jaune que j'avais promis, je vais le mettre dans la poche. Voici le carton jaune là.
As a sound warning to avoid the yellow cards, the Minister of Territorial Administration reminded the custodians of tradition that they are allies to the government and have as role to accompany state developmental moves, and not spitting venom on these via memoranda writing and the publication on social media.
Donner des idées sur l'agriculture, ne parlez pas seulement de la politique, de la constitution, du code électoral du Nord-Ouest. Parlons de l'agriculture et du développement
As an advice, Minister Atanga told the concerned to be wise and stop being fooled by some politicians in the West region for their political goals and egoistic interests.
Les gens vous amènent à parler politique tout le temps. Non, c'est de la distraction.
He adds that the head of state sees them instrumental in getting development, reason why he decided traditional rulers be included in the regional councils, though not allowed by the original text.
Le chef de l'État, son Excellence Paul Biya, garant de la Constitution, qui sait se mettre au-dessus des mêlées, a dit à ses propres militants du parti que le RDPC est fort, certes, mais préparez-vous à une éventuelle concurrence.
The Minad boss stressed that any letter or memorandum meant for President Paul Biya must first and foremost be channeled through him than using the social media and the streets, as in the case of some custodians of the tradition in the West region.
In the southwest region, traditional rulers of the Fako division are expressing concerns about the security. They said that they are continuously being targeted as the armed conflict in the northwest and southwest regions of the country persists. They were expressing the concerns during an enlarged meeting of the executives of the Southwest Traditional Rulers Conference. Details in this report by Derek Jato.
Fako Division, one of the zones hosting African Nations Championship (CHAN), is having exceptional security concentration as the air, land, and sea seem to be colonized by special units to hit back any opposing idea or action. And the Fako chiefs in that enlarged executive meeting for 2021 sounded a note of warning and caution to their peers on security measures and to respect COVID-19 measures.
We know the crisis we are facing. We know the COVID-19 which is there by us, and the new version is out again today.
Chief Ndike Richard, president of Fako Conference of Traditional Rulers, called on the government to do more for things are still happening. For instance, while descending for this meeting in Tiko subdivision, some chiefs here were caught in the crossfire between the separatist fighters and the State Defense and Security Forces at Ombe along the Mutengeni-Limbe Road.
We are not safe. We are not safe for the fact that you saw what happened in Mutengene today with the council workers that just went down there. If not God, that was a fast intervention from the Mutengene unit, something best would have happened.
These president of Fako Traditional Rulers also begged on their children still holding guns in the bushes against the state to drop them and come home to be part of these numerous opportunities provided by the government. But there is another problem: misunderstanding within.
This institution should not be an institution of betrayal, because you stand in position, you want to be toughest person, so you have to betray everybody, you have to backstab them.
The administration too is penetrating into the affairs of traditional rulers to either puncture or weaken certain moves. Showing appreciation, Chief Etina Monono thanked his peers for electing them into the House of Chiefs and reminding them that they are in the house to defend their interests.
We can assure you that as we are here, we are going to do what the Fako for.
This 2021 enlarged executive meeting of Fako Conference of Traditional Rulers was to review the activities of 2020 and draw a roadmap for 2021.
The Fako Divisional Conference of Traditional Rulers calling on the Yaoundé administration to step up security and efforts to restore peace and normalcy in order to avoid situations similar to what happened to some of the traditional rulers of that same Fako division who were targeted, abducted, some killed by armed civilians. And of course they were speaking during the enlarged executive meeting of Fako Divisional Traditional Rulers Conference. Thank you, Jato, for that report. Now, on to something else, to Kamer in the Donga-Mantum division, south or northwest region of the country. The locality, like many other localities in the two English-speaking regions of the country, away from the urban centers, facing lots of difficulties provoked by the Anglophone crisis. Inhabitants are simply finding it quite difficult to move from one place to the other because of insecurity, and even places where there is relative calm, like in Kamer, it is becoming very difficult for the inhabitants to move out of the area, and they are complaining and asking for solutions to this problem. Immaculate Fogwe has more.
The town of Kamer, headquarters of the Donga-Mantum division, the northwest region of Cameroon, has been experiencing relative calm compared to other areas following the escalation of the armed conflict in the northwest and southwest regions. Several schools in the town are operational and activities going on hitch-free. Despite the situation, the population are still affected by the crisis as they are surrounded by villages hardest hit by the armed conflict. In this regard, transporting goods from other parts in the town becomes very difficult. Government Technical High School Kamer, for example, has been unable to transport its survey equipment sent by the Ministry of Secondary Education. The equipment got stuck in Bamenda due to insecurity along the way.
This equipment was furnished in the BIP 2019. And when the equipment came from France and reached Yaoundé, transported to Bamenda, those who brought it were to hand it to us here in Kamer, but it was impossible due to the socio-political situation in the country. The
combined efforts of administrative and security forces facilitated the transportation of the survey equipment.
And thanks to the effort of the administration, because the governor started looking for a way forward, although he did not succeed at the end, but finally we wrote to the SDO here asking for assistance. As he even said today at the end of the day that when we contacted him, he did all the possibility he could do and went right up to Bamenda and could not succeed. But thank God, God sent to us Mr. Henry, the company commander of the gendarmerie of this place, who came here just for a mere visit, and we presented our problems to him and he started handling them one after.
The survey equipment worth 50 million francs CFA is expected to ameliorate the teaching and learning process, a gesture appreciated by the senior divisional officer for Donga-Mantum and the PTA chairperson.
If we read the progress report card of this institution from the speech of the principal, we will realize that in the last 3 years, this school was the best setter in the organized government results in Cameroon. This in itself shows where government should invest most.
Today we are receiving equipment donated by the states of Cameroon worth 50 million, and as a parent and a representative of the parents, I'm very happy that this equipment has come to raise this school up to a standard that we did not expect.
The staff has pledged to make maximum use of the equipment for an effective teaching and learning process.
Traders in Konsamba in the Mongo division of the littoral region of Cameroon take to the streets protesting against a sudden increase in taxes imposed on them by municipal authorities. They are asking for explanations and also demanding for the construction of a modern market with social amenities to improve on the sanitary conditions around the market. Details with Charles Kmer.
A stiff resistance witnessed at the Konsamba market, Mungu division of the littoral region. These traders are protesting against a tax increase imposed on them by the city mayor, Zoki Epo.
According to them, most of their shops are in a dilapidating state, with garbage being littered at every periphery of the market. But the most intriguing issue, which has contributed to poor sanitary conditions in this locality, is the lack of public toilets since the construction of these markets.
Premièrement, ici au marché, nous n'avons pas les toilettes.
There is a huge increase in taxes, whereas we don't have toilets. Women in here sometimes defecate in buckets and plastic bags. No shop has been renovated, and our city mayor has recently increased taxes from 900 francs to 3,000 francs. Take a look at the market.
De 900 à 3000 sans construire le marché, regardez le marché.
Il y a un président. Il y a un président.
We have a president who told us we have to pay the new taxes levied on us because there are orders from hierarchy. But we have decided not to pay because they haven't renovated the market. They are asking us to live with our makeshift structures if we do not pay. It's not normal. The traders at the Kongsemba market expect that the council authorities, headed by the mayor, Zoki Epo, endeavors to moderate the high taxes levied on them and embark on a renovation plan for the construction of a modern market so as to improve the living conditions of the people.
In a similar story, residents of Marwa in the far north region of the Republic of Cameroon are also expressing concerns about their health because of the indisposal or indiscriminate waste disposal in that part of the country, which is causing some health problems to the inhabitants, and areas around the markets in the town are in a very poor hygienic state, as Immaculate Fogel reports.
Piles of garbage littered around major junctions and gutters in the city of Marwa. The exposed inhabitants are now susceptible to respiratory problems and skin irritations. Waste disposal workers blame inhabitants for not making good use of the available bins. Residents, on their part, are blaming waste disposal workers for not doing their job. We fall sick every day. The town is dirty. I think those in charge of waste disposal need to step up. It is against this backdrop that the senior divisional officer for the Diamare division, accompanied by the mayor of Marwa too, organized a clean-up exercise at the Abattoir Market and the Handicraft Center in Marwa. With the aid of a spade, Ekoa Baga offered a helping hand in cleaning the gutters.
Ce n'est un secret pour personne, la ville de Marwa est régulièrement sujette.
One of the major causes of flood in Marwa is poor waste disposal. The governor of Marwa has urged the entire population to intensify cleanup campaigns. If you want to be healthy, you need to live in a clean environment. So, we have instructed the different mayors of Marwa to mobilize the population and clean up their area.
De mobiliser les jeunes, les femmes, les enfants.
Traders have expressed satisfaction with the work done. They equally wish that such campaigns could be carried out on regular basis.
Out of Cameroon, the controversial travel bans imposed by former U.S. President Donald Trump on Africa's most populous nation, Nigeria, Eritrea, Sudan, Tanzania, and other countries have been reversed. It is part of the flurry of policy reversals made by President Joe Biden after he officially took office yesterday. Joe Biden said Trump's policy was just plain wrong. In the same vein, the U.S. is now set to rejoin the Paris peace deal, the Paris climate deal. Cuts Euronews.
Finally, on his third attempt, Joe Biden has the keys to the White House, and the 46th President of the United States has already got started on his large in-tray. Within hours of his inauguration, he signed numerous executive orders that dismantle his predecessor's legacy, reversing course on immigration, racial equality, the handling of the coronavirus pandemic and climate change.
Third, one I'm going to sign, and that's what I'm going to do while you're all here, is the commitment I made that we're going to rejoin the Paris Climate Accord as of today.
From the moment he stood up to take his oath of office, Biden has changed the tone of US politics.
On this January day, my whole soul is in this, bringing America together, uniting our people, uniting our nation. And I ask every American to join me in this cause. So here's my message to those beyond our borders. America has been tested, and we've come out stronger for it. We will repair our alliances and engage with the world once again.
A second star of the ceremony, the first woman and the first black and Asian American to be sworn in as Vice President.
I, Kamala Davy Harris, do solemnly swear.
With the support of Harris, Biden's most ambitious immigration proposal, just unveiled, is a bill that will give legal status and a path to citizenship to anyone in the United States before January the 1st, an estimated 11 million people, and reduce the time that family members must wait outside the United States for green cards. Several of the US's former presidents attended the inauguration, but none took office in their time against a backdrop of such division in the country. The first 100 days of any administration are always important to a new president. Biden has much to do, but in his debut address as Commander-in-Chief, he had a simple central message. Unity is the path forward, and we must meet this moment as the United States of America. Evelyn Laverick, Euronews.
Group B games in the ongoing African Nations Championship resumed today here in Douala, and currently going on the encounter between Libya and the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Libya is leading by 1-0. And in the meantime, after the indomitable Lions of Cameroon, the intermediary team taking part in the ongoing CHAN competition, recorded a victory and a draw game. Supporters are not satisfied with the performance of the indomitable Lions, and they were speaking to Smart Jikan yesterday. That was after the encounter that has ended on a 1-1 draw, the encounter against Libya, which ended on a 1-1 draw, and of course that was their second group game. Smart Jikan
The fan zone of the African Nations Championship in Bonaberi was not tight as expected on a day that the intermediate Lions were on the pitch for their second Group A encounter at the Ahmadou Ahidjo Stadium. The fan zone had Cameroonians who came to support their team alongside Malians residents in Cameroon. The dense population a worker at the fan zone confirms has been so since the competition started. Since the start of CHAN, people are not really interested, but some people come from time to time. It closes after the second match. As the intermediate Lions took on Mali, some of their supporters at the fan zone say they still lack an individual player who could change the game at any time.
Dans l'ensemble, elle n'est pas décevante, mais sauf qu'il y a
In its totality, it's not bad, but collectively, we lack the persons who could change a game by themselves. We lack a game changer.
personnes qui à tout moment peuvent changer le cours du jeu. Voyez un peu, sur le plan collectif c'est ça, mais individuellement les gars, il n'y a pas de gars, vraiment il n'y a pas de meneur du jeu.
Misses on the screen were also reflected in the faces of the fans who came to watch the encounter. At the end of the game that saw the Lions sharing the points with Mali, a supporter says the match was very tight and worth watching.
Le match c'était tellement vivant, les Lions quand même mouillé, le maillot.
It was a lively game that we saw. The Lions actually improved compared to the pre-Chan tournament, but we still want more from them. If I had to name the man of the match, I would have given it to our goalkeeper. He did a lot of good saves.
Nommer notre gardien comme meilleur joueur de ce soir parce qu'il a fait une belle arrêt, pas possible.
Another says Cameroon dominated the Malians with their style of play and says if Cameroon had the chances of Mali, the game would have ended in favor of Cameroon.
Je vois plutôt que le Cameroun a même dominé le Mali.
I saw that Cameroon dominated Mali. When you see the face-to-face, our goalkeeper saved. I think if it was Cameroon, they would have scored. The game should have ended at least 3-1 in favor of Cameroon.
3-1. Donc le match était équilibré quand même.
A total of 6 goals were scored in Group A on Wednesday, with Burkina Faso recording the highest win, 3-1 over Zimbabwe. The football lovers at the fan zone left the area after the second encounter.
That's it for the first part of this newscast. Talking Point comes up next. Thank you for staying with us in Talking Points. We are receiving Dr. Nick Nkwayan, educationist, founder and president of St. Louis University Institute. Thank you for joining us today, Doctor.
Thank you. Good evening to all our listeners.
We begin with the warnings from the Minister of Territorial Administration to traditional rulers in the west region of the country. He wants them to stay away from manipulation by some politicians and condemns the fact that they criticized the government in a statement which they published on social media. What do you think about that?
Well, I didn't see the statement, so I find it very difficult to comment on something I've not seen. But on its face value, I guess those funds and chiefs or whatever, they are adults, and the political field is an open field for everybody. And they're not subject to a particular party or particular discipline or something like that, and they have a liberty as adults to think. You know, the thing about us in Cameroon and in Africa is that we try to make adults think like sheep. You see what I mean? Think like sheep, and that's not possible. They are adults, and we are on a politics is a marketplace. All you need to do is sell your ideas very well and govern very well and do things very well and provide what the people need and create that uniting force instead of always fighting. If we always have this spirit where the government always gets the impression that they are sitting up here and they have to breathe down on people, then you always see this kind of tension. That's not what you need to see. You know, what the minister would have done would have been to come and sit with them and listen to them and find out from them why they wrote the letter and why they behaved the way they did and what could be done to, and where's the shoe hurting, you know. But when you come and then
in the letter they were expressing concerns over the some issues of national interest, including the Anglophone crisis, and pointing out that what government has been doing so far to solve the problem is not enough.
Well, they didn't lie in that regard, because you know the Anglophone problem is still going on. There's still violence going on, and in as much as the ministers or the SDOs might tell you that it's okay, but when they themselves are going around, they go around in armored cars with a lot of protection. So everything is okay when, let's say, the Minister of Territorial Administration can go to Bamenda and drive just probably with his one bodyguard to a place like Kumu. Then you can tell everybody it's okay. But if you're going to have these armored cars around you and then you tell people that it's okay, then something's wrong.
His concern was about the fact that the traditional rulers publish what they wrote on social media, and he thinks that they should instead send they should have sent it to the right quarters and not publishing it on social media.
Well, I think he's right to a certain extent, but we should also understand that when people publish on social media, might be they have been trying to tell you from the back door and you don't seem to get it, and they get so frustrated I think there's always this thing of the open letter to the president or something like that. So it's because they are convinced that what they are saying is right, just, and good, so they lay it bare for everybody to see. Might be we are making mistakes. Cameroonians, please tell us. They don't have any secrets, so they lay it out there. And I think instead of kicking them around, we should find out what the problem is and solve the problem.
And in another situation is a senior administrator telling the traditional ruler, paramount ruler of the Bamenju people, stop criticizing the government because you're inciting violence.
I used to think that criticizing the government was a bad thing, but we've seen what has happened in America. I think when you say criticize the government, it should be positive criticism, not just criticizing for the sake of it. If people are criticizing and what they are saying is true, then you should sit up and do something about it. You can only condemn them if what they are saying is a lie. But if it is true, then you say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that I made this mistake. How can we fix it? That's the way to go, not kicking people around.
All right, you're an educationist, president and founder of a higher institution of learning, St. Louis University Institute. Let's talk about university lecturers of state universities in Cameroon, who said that they were going to go on a strike actions from, I think, next Monday, 25th of January 2021, over unpaid dues, including research allowances and of course overtime and supervision or thesis supervision and things like that. The Minister of Higher Education has also indicated that some of those the money that government is owing them will be paid in cash. Some of them will be sent to their accounts probably as from Sunday or so. But what do you think about this? Repeated strike actions, repeated announced strike actions of university lecturers who are always complaining of one thing or the other, and so on, and even their conditions, working conditions. They say that their working conditions has deteriorated.
Yeah, I think they are right. The university teachers are right to a certain extent, because if you look at all sectors in the nation, we have problems. Go to hospitals. Hospitals have problems. What you call the plateau technique are not very comfortable. And you go to our secondary schools, the laboratories are not there. You go to technical colleges, there's nothing, and so on. So to a certain extent, they might not be doing their work properly because they lack a lot of things, and therefore we cannot blame them totally. But when an issue comes up like this, probably it's time for us to kind of like face the music and then ask ourselves the questions. What is it that the teachers are doing that is probably not right? What is it that they are doing that is right? In which areas do they have to improve? Where does the government have to improve, and so on? And what are our needs? Because come to think of it, if we just leave the things as they are and step out a little bit, we can ask ourselves a bunch of questions. What is the purpose of university education, or education for that matter? And then we ask ourselves the question, if the teachers have been doing research, has any of them bothered to research to find out why many of the university students are riding when motorcycles are on the streets? So what kind of research are they doing? Is it useful research? If it is useful research, can we see evidence of that in our communities? In what way is the common man, the taxpayer, benefiting from that research? So the quality of research and many of all those things, we have to review them. It's very, very important.
In 2009, the President of the Republic created a special fund to modernize university research at the level of state universities and other higher institutions of the learning. But those who are doing the research are saying that the Ministry of Higher Education is not strictly abiding to the terms of the rules and regulations governing the management of that special fund.
it's important to also say that, you know, there's a lot of politics in education, and most of the lecturers and professors who are complaining, they're political lecturers, political, not that they study political science, is that, you know, there are a lot of people who are there. If we were to bring, you know, let's say professors, real professors from countries like India, Malaysia, South Korea, Singapore, you know, to put all our lecturers and professors through the test, you know, use some instruments to actually find out who they are. I wonder how many of them will get a pass mark. I don't think we'll go beyond 35%. You know, many of them there are just, this person is my person, that one is my this one, and so on. And one other indicator, if you have noticed on your TV stations, not this one, might be this one and many others, you always have this professor, they're arguing politics from morning to evening, and we're not seeing any evidence of anything concrete. So I think it's time. It's a good thing that the minister has got some money to give them, so that you know, we are going through a lot of trouble now. We don't want to create more social problems, but you know, we need, of course, to stir the pond so that we can catch the fish, to say that, look, there is something with our education, something has to change, and change very rapidly, because we seem to be training children who are not effective on the field. We seem to be training children who cannot look after themselves. So something is seriously wrong. And another way we can put it,
thing that is wrong with
another way we can put it, another way we can just put it for starters is, let's look at all our professors. Let's take them and put them together and say, okay, for some odd reason, there's no teaching job for you. What else can you do? That's a way to put the question. If you have professors who cannot do anything other than teach, then it tells you that the children that they are teaching are not in the wrong hands. Is it making some sense? And
their products are not reflecting the expectations of
see, education is to grow the person up with capacities, analytical capacities, creative capacities, whatever, to be able to solve problems and create wealth and create opportunities. Now, if you have professors teaching children who lack these capacities themselves, then the children don't have those capacities. So we need to test the professors for these capacities. If the professors cannot do anything other than teach, then what they are telling us is that the children they are teaching can't do anything other than teach. You get what I'm saying? So we need to actually go in there and find out what is happening. Otherwise, the youth are in a lot of trouble. Before I came onto the stage here, I was wondering, if you ask me what are the problems of Cameroon on my fingertips, I would say, okay, we had COVID-19. It has, as number one, it has stepped to the back a little bit, though it's not gone away. So we still need to be careful. Then the next problem, it's the Anglophone problem that we must solve. And the third problem is the youth problem. The youths are a time bomb in this nation, and if we don't do something about it, it's going to be very messy. And why am I saying so? The children don't have money, they have no opportunities, they don't just know what to do with themselves, and in the morning they will get out and roam all over the whole place. Some will go drink, some will take drugs, and so on. We catch them, beat them, kill them because they stole here or there. Beating them or killing them or locking them in prisons or building more prisons is not the solution.
The solution starts with education.
It's education, and we must ask the right questions and get it right, and we must challenge the professors to sit up, and then we must do some kind of what is the technical thing?
An overhaul of the whole system.
We need to take the professors and the technical name is going off my mind, but it's about accountability. But that's not the right word. It's about accountability. You are a professor of this. Are you really worth your salt? Who have you trained, and what has the person done? Can we continue in that light, or you need to learn some other skills?
To evaluate the outcome of the work.
It's called monitoring and evaluation. That's the word, the technical word. We have to do some monitoring and evaluation in our university systems, in our secondary schools, all those. Otherwise, we just go down some road for 60 years and we just keep going without ever checking where are we going to, where did we come from, and where do we intend to be. Now, to really understand, to help you understand this, realize that when the President Paul Biya says that we must emerge in 2035, 2035 is just 15. It's actually just 14 years down the road, and it's not a magical thing. He says we are emerging in 2035. We sit and fold our arms. Oh, le président a dit qu'on va émerger. That is not it. 2035, to emerge in 2035 means you and I, everybody should be doing something so that the country can emerge. What does it mean for the country to emerge? It means that our youth should be in a position to solve all their problems, create wealth, we build the roads, build the homes, build the health system, build our economy, all these kind of things, where everybody has something to eat, everybody has a good life. You know, when you see all this violence and hatred and so on, it's because of bad economics. It's when you begin to see these things correct themselves and the solutions are brought by our youth and our children, then we are emerging.
Dr. Nick Nguyen, educationist, founder and president of St. Louis University Institute. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. Equinoxe is up next.